Hi friends, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. Here's what we're discussing today. Periodically I do videos that are going to be relevant no matter when they air, and I do that so that I can from time to time leave town, take a couple of days off, that sort of thing. So I hope you enjoy this video. Well, corporate America thinks you are stupid. They think I'm stupid. They pretty much think that if you're a bipedal human, you are stupid. There's just really no other way to say it. They think you're stupid, and they want to weaponize your ignorance against you. Now, why do I say that? Because the shelves of Walmart and Target are chock full of examples of this. Now, my wife has had some trouble recently with hives and itching. And if you've ever had problems with itching, you know how bothersome that can be. It makes it difficult for you to focus on tasks. It's hard to go to sleep when you're itching. And of course, if you itch and you scratch it, a lot of times you damage your skin. You wind up with big scaly patches of skin. It can be really a maddening kind of thing. In most cases, itching is caused by histamine, which is a substance that's released by the body in response to inflammation. That's why when you get an itch and you scratch it, it usually gets worse because the scratch produces additional inflammation, which produces additional histamine, which causes additional itching. It's what you might call a vicious cycle. Now, everybody knows that diphenhydramine is an antihistamine, and it's available in pill form, and it works better than being hit in the head with a hammer as a sleep aid, because if I take 25 milligrams of Benadryl, I am out for the count, usually, particularly if there's not a sun out in the sky at the moment. It's probably the best sleep aid I know of. But that's not what it was designed to do. It was designed to treat histamine release. If your skin itches at 6 o'clock in the morning, you're probably unlikely to want to take a Benadryl orally because it'll make you sleepy. So a lot of people buy the Benadryl gel or cream. But here's the rub, no pun intended. Benadryl is actually poorly absorbed through the skin. It takes several hours for it to work. And even when it's absorbed in subtherapeutic levels. So you're not getting enough of it to actually address the problem. So for the most part, any relief you get will be in the form of placebo. But because it won't hurt you, the FDA allows it to be sold, even though it's really terribly ineffective, at least for stopping itching. Now, corporate America counts on you not reading up on the medication. They count on you not going to Google and asking, is Benadryl cream effective to stop itching? The company's not actively spewing misinformation. They're simply just not saying everything they know about that cream. Which brings me to an episode that happened to us at Target. My wife went to Target to purchase something for hives. And in a big box that held 30 pills for $21, she found Allegra hives. It's an antihistamine, and it's supposed to work very well in controlling hives and itching. But my wife always reads labels. So she read the label, and it said Allegra was fexofenadine hydrochloride, and the dose was 180 milligrams. Okay, that's interesting. Next to the box marked hives, there was a box of generic fexofenadine hydrochloride with 60 pills for $20. So less expensive, more pills, roughly half price. It did not say it was specifically for hives, but it was in the same strength and same formulation as Allegra. In other words, it was fexofenadine hydrochloride, 180 milligrams. Your typical consumer who doesn't understand how marketing mavens on Madison Avenue and in drug companies work, they go to the store and they're looking for something for hives, and they see Allegra hives, they grab it, take it to the checkout counter, and pay twice as much for it as my wife paid for that bottle of generic fexofenadine that she bought. Now, the makers of Allegra are not breaking any laws. They're not engaging in fraud. They don't claim, for example, that only the hives formulation works for hives, or that there's a difference between standard Allegra and Allegra hives. They just know the average consumer won't read the labels and compare, so they weaponize that against you. Here's another example of where a company is, in my opinion, deceptively marketing its products. Wise Foods makes potato chips. Now, the weight the bag shows, for example, is 8 ounces of product, which is exactly what's in the bag. So if you read the label and it says you're getting 8 ounces of potato chips, you're getting 8 ounces of potato chips. But the bag is like this big, about a foot, maybe even a little bigger than a foot tall. And because it's twice as big, it stands head and shoulders above the competitor's brand, which also has that 8 ounces of chips in there, but it isn't filled to the rim with air and puffed up like a nickel balloon. The bag being twice as big, filled with air, gives the illusion that you're getting more with the Wise Chip bag than you are with the competitor's brand. Again, the manufacturer is counting on you not reading the label. They expect you to look at the difference between the bags and say, wow, there's more in this one, and take it off the shelf and take it home without realizing that there was just as much in the other brand, and maybe the other brand was a little cheaper. So that's called slack filling. And as a result of it being slack filled, Wise was sued for it for deceptively marketing their product. I want to be sure and point out that Wise was able to escape any liability in that lawsuit. It was dismissed by the Southern District of New York, essentially finding that a reasonable consumer would not be confused if they simply read the amount of contents at the end of the bag. Now, slack fill is the difference between the actual capacity of a container and the volume of product contained inside. The concept is found in the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act and its implementing regulations. The FDCA itself doesn't expressly mention slack fill, but it provides that a food, drug, or cosmetic is misbranded, in other words, it violates the act, if its container is so made, formed, or filled as to be misleading. And if you're interested in following up on that, you can find that at 21 U.S.C. Section 343D. So the regulation encompasses some instances of slack filling. In the mid-20th century, the FDA brought a bunch of enforcement actions against food makers, asserting that slack fill rendered their containers filled so as to be misleading under the statute. All of those cases, and there were numerous ones, were lost by the agency at trial, or even before they got to trial. They had a problem. They were claiming deception, but the courts threw out the cases because slack fill is legal and lawful as long as it is functional. So what does functional mean in terms of slack filling? It means that the manufacturer only has to assert one of the 6 ways in which a slack fill can be functional. And those are found at 21 CFR section 100.100A. They provide that a food container that does not allow the consumer to fully view its contents shall be considered misleading under 343 if it contains non-functional slack fill. They also provide that slack fill is not misleading if it exists for one of 6 functional reasons. Protection of the contents of the package. That's right, we puff our bags up with air to protect the fragile little potato chips inside. Unavoidable product settling during shipping and handling. You've probably seen on cereal boxes and other things, some settling of the contents occurs during shipping. And when you open up the bag of Rice Krispies or Raisin Bran, you open that up, you find that it's fluffed up with air on the inside. Now the box is the same size, but inside it's fluffed up with air, and the reason it's fluffed up with air, they claim, is both to prevent settling and protect the products. Then there are those situations where there is a need for the package to perform a specific function. For example, in microwave foods like microwave popcorn, where it says, put the bag face down before you put it in the microwave. That's a specific function that the bag plays, and so it would not be filled inappropriately if it had a specific function. The fact that the product consists of a food packaged in a reusable container where the container is part of the presentation of the food and has significant independent value. In other words, you buy the Black Forest ham from Hillshire Farms at the supermarket because you want that little plastic bin that it comes in along with a little red lid so that you can continue to store not only Black Forest ham in it, but maybe leftover okra later on if that's what you decide to use it for. Or the inability to increase the level of fill or further reduce the size of the package where some minimum package size is necessary to accommodate required food labeling, discourage theft, facilitate handling, or accommodate tamper-resistant devices. Well, in the dismissed lawsuits, it generally meant that the defendant claimed the slack fill was necessary to protect the products. It was functional. After the Wise lawsuit was filed, lots of other plaintiffs piled on. And generally speaking, those cases have all failed. And mostly that's because if you read the label and compare brands, you're not fooled. So that's an important distinction. Some things, however, can't be gleaned from reading the labels. Star-Kissed Tuna was accused of doing something fishy. However, and it was sued for underfilling its tuna cans. According to the lawsuit, the federal government set standards for how much of a various kinds of tuna have to be contained in a 5-ounce can. The plaintiff in the lawsuit, Patrick Hendricks of Oakland, California, had samples tested to see whether they met that standard. For chunk light tuna in water, the standard is 2.84 ounces of pressed cake tuna. Now think about that. In a 5-ounce can, only 2.84 ounces of it has to be tuna? Gosh, that does not make a lot of sense. Star-Kissed provided an average of only 2.34 ounces, the suit said, and that's a difference of only half an ounce, but it's 17.3% below the legal standard. For solid white tuna in water, there was a 6.83% shortfall, and for solid white tuna in oil, there was a 3.7% shortfall. So the lawsuit alleged these things, and it went forward into discovery. Star-Kissed did not admit wrongdoing. And let's face it, it could very well have been packaging equipment that malfunctioned with no intent to deprive customers of value, or it could have been a long-running scam designed to fill their pockets. I'm not sure which of those two it was, but there is a reasonable basis to believe that it wasn't intentional. But they did agree to settle for $25 in cash, or they would send people $50 in canned tuna. So as I said, there's something a little fishy about that. And that is just two of the examples, or three, I guess, of the examples of ways that marketing people use package size and the labeling requirements to effectively deceive you into buying something that may not actually contain more product. It may just contain enough product to satisfy the government regulations. If you've been the victim of any of this, drop me a comment down below and tell me the story. I'd be interested in hearing from you about that. And of course, if you have other comments about this video, please drop them in the comments down below, or you can email me at the address above. Thank you so much for watching. If you have an opportunity today, please go out of your way and do something kind for someone. The other day we were at Olive Garden. There was a big long line because it was Juneteenth and everybody was eating lunch out that day. And my wife and I had to wait for about 20 minutes. And there was an older woman, probably in her late 80s, who came in, and she had a cane and she was walking and there was no place to sit. So I got up from my seat and gave her that seat because that's what gentlemen do. We take care of those who are less able than we are. And, that didn't used to be something anybody would comment about. They would just think that that was a normal thing for a person to do. But several people commented on me doing that, and I said, it's the way I am. It's what I believe, and I believe that doing kindnesses for people is the right thing to do. So at any rate, if you have the opportunity to do something similar, please do that. You can even let me know about that in the comments if you'd like. And then come on back down here tomorrow, join me at the beach, and we'll talk about something else interesting. If you like this video, here are a few others you might try, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a terrific day, guys.